My name is Dave Burzak, and this is an overview of a custom DJ interface I've created that I call Toy. I'm going to run through the features quickly. I'll put notes in the description, and if you have any questions, please post them in the comments. I'll post another video demonstrating how I actually use this thing. Now, what you're looking at here is 3 Generation 1 iPads. Each is running an app called Lime Lemur, connected via Wi-Fi to custom Max MSP devices that I created in Ableton Live, which is running on my MacBook. I interact directly with the controls on the touchscreen, and I don't even look at the laptop. The basic purpose here is to create a DJ interface that let me DJ with the powerhouse capabilities and extensibility of Ableton by filling in the basic features that it lacks, mainly library management and cue points, and to provide myself with a streamlined interface for a smooth workflow for the kind of DJing that I want to do. That is fun, improvisational pop and EDM sets with live remixes and mashup transitions. Overall, this is the library view up here on this screen. You have sorting controls to control the short list of songs that's visible here. Cue point previews, so you can preview from different cue points. Arming the decks, and deck track info. And here on each of these you have a view of each deck with a timeline view, various playhead controls for cue points, nudging, and looping. Here you have volume and filters, and right here there's a set of tone-based effects, and these are rhythm-based effects. There's no mixer or crossfader in this paradigm, because everything is handled via volume and filter controls. This is the central iPad that shows the overall library, and here you can see the main view is a list of 9 tracks, I believe, and these are top selected based on whatever's currently playing. So here you have the track name, and there's an artist name. There's the BPM and the key, and a bunch of cue points that you can preview from in the library. And pressing one of these buttons will arm the track to either deck A or deck B. We can paginate up and down this list, clicking here, so we can view more tracks. And this short list is generated by default based on whatever's currently playing. So if I click this, Ghosts and Stuff, I'm going to get the top tracks that match this track in terms of both BPM and key. As you can see, 3A is the key in the Camelot system, and Ghosts and Stuff is in 3A. So we're going to see mostly 3As. There's some 3Bs and some 2As and a 4A. And all things that are around 128 BPM. There's basically a little algorithm that finds other tracks in my library that are similar so that they're readily available for smooth tempo and harmonic mixes. Now I can use this here, BPM, to create an offset that is, it's going to favor slightly faster songs than the one that I am referencing, Ghosts and Stuff, and that'll allow me to slowly, progressively speed up through the set. This here is a key offset, so I can slowly but surely move my way around the circle of fifths. So now it's favoring one key above, 4A. And I can still find some 3As and maybe some 5As here, but that will, and of course Bs, the majors, but it'll help me to generally move my way around and so get variety in my set and possibly infuse some energy. So that is the sorting. As you can see, the coloring here, gray, the default gray means that we are on point, right on the same BPM and key as the referenced track. And as you get brighter colors, either purple or red, blue, it indicates that you're off. And so the brighter, the darker the color indicates how far off we are with a given track. So yeah, clicking on any track name will update what the referenced track is for the list. And that is about that. We can also sort by artist name. So if I really want to find a specific artist, I pull up this little keyboard and just key in, for example, K for Kanye. And here we get Kanye Stronger and the J's, and there's some L's. And so it basically sorts the whole library alphabetically and jumps to that particular artist. And T is the same, only for title search. And Q, as you can see here, I haven't entered the Q points for all of the tracks yet, and so Q will filter when I update this and show me only tracks that are without Q points. So when I'm going through and doing my homework, setting my Q points, this will just show me the stuff that I haven't gotten to yet. So anyways, back here to ghosts and stuff. And a couple more features here. In addition to being able to preview with the given cue points, I can stop the preview, of course. Down here, I can transpose this song, changing the key, and here it shows the effective key with transposition. So especially if I want to play a particular song that didn't come up high in the list, I may want to transpose it to match better with what I've got playing right now. Likewise, here's an interesting feature. I call it Tempo Glider, and basically what it does is it will slowly but surely glide the tempo to match this track. So here, every 20 seconds, it's going to change by 1 BPM, smoothly shifting between, in this case, actually, I think it's set to 10, but basically over the span of half a minute or a minute, we get a few BPM shift. So it's very smooth. The audience won't be able to tell, and I won't have to sit there slowly dialing a knob. And I can just leave that, and it'll just shut itself off once it's reached the target. So as I'm changing tempos through my set, I just use that to keep the global tempo up with whatever song I am playing. That is the main library, and now I'm going to get into each of the decks. This is one of the iPads that shows a deck. Now all the decks are going to be identical, just referencing different tracks in Ableton, where I play the different my different tracks. In this case, we're looking at deck B, and so what we have here is a timeline view. Unfortunately, there's limitations in Lemur what I can display, so I can't get the full oscilloscope visualization of the track, but I do have a timeline with a playhead and all my cue points lined up, so I can see where I'm at and contextually in terms of where the cue points are in each track. These are the actual cue point buttons. I can nudge forward and back, which is especially helpful when trying to get a song ready for transition. I can loop, so here's a 4, 8, 16 note loop. Cancel it. I can nudge the loop back and forth. I can extend it from in either direction or by half or double. And these are all the playhead controls. There's a couple extra here. Of course, there's a stop button, which I tucked away because that's the one place in here that you can really break the mix. Other things are protected. For example, you can't arm a track unless it's stopped. So, well, here we have the record button. This little record button will change to record mode, and now I am, instead of playing from cue points, I'm just setting the cue point to whatever the point is in the song where it's playing. So, nudge, and I could reset, put cue point 8 right there, boom. Get out of that. Now, another interesting thing is why is number 1 blue? And that's for a specific reason, a feature that I call pinpoint. Pinpoint lets you specify a particular cue point, and this cycles between which one is the pinpoint. And typically you're going to choose one toward the end of the song, and this is saying, oh, that's sort of where I'm going to stop playing and where I want to transition. So it sets a transition point. Then on the other track, you're going to hit this button, which toggles all of them to blue. And then when you click play on a given cue point, instead of playing that cue point immediately, it's going to backtrack and play from wherever on the song it needs to, so that when the other track hits its specified pinpoint, this track will hit the cue point that I just played. So it lets me basically anticipate a transition, and it lets me play some an extended selection of source material beforehand, and still get that precise point transition when I get there, which is fun. So anyways, on to other controls. Here we have the gain, which is essentially that's your volume. I don't have a crossfader. I instead use that and these filters. So gain, that's it zeroed out. If I need to boost, I can go up. If I need to take it down, I can bring it all the way down. Then I don't use this too much, but this is an EQ8 that basically isolates a given frequency range and cutting everything else. This is sidechain compression, ducking. So this lets me do sidechain compression based on the other track. So whenever that track's volume booms, boosts, spikes, whatever, it will uniformly drop the volume on this track to make space between the tracks. Now that's pretty good, but what's even better, and what I use mostly, is this plugin called Track Spacer. And this is the level, the amount of track spacer that's applied, and it actually has a range that it applies to. Now Track Spacer, even if you apply it to the whole range, what it's doing is sidechain compression, but it's doing it on a frequency band basis. So it deducts the lows based on the lows on the source reference track, and it ducts the highs based on the highs on a very granular level. So that lets you mash things up really, really easily. It's an awesome plugin. I highly recommend it. It's used typically for production in Ableton, and I thought, well, I think it would be really fun to play with in a DJ application. So yeah, and so typically I'll, either I'll do a little bit of track spacer applied to the whole thing, or maybe a bit more, and just limit it to the lows. Here we have typical EQ3, the EQ3, and then you have the range. Playing with the range gives you a sort of high pass, low pass as well, if you really want to play with that. And you can fine tune how the EQ3 is working. Here we have, the high pass and the low pass set on an XY. XYs are amazing. I got this from a video by Gates, and he suggested putting your auto filters, a high pass and a low pass, on an XY. So here you can get just your highs and kind of filter it up, and here you can filter it to just the lows, or if you want just the mids, come up the middle. It's really easy way to filter your sound and get a nice mix. Here's your resonance. More resonance gives you that nice sweepy sound, and less resonance gives you a smoother moves around here. And so when you go up to this side of the triangle up here, you've cut everything off. So that's the XY for auto filters. Other than that, we've got effects here. Reverb. I'm not going to get into the details here, but these are some simple intuitive controls for reverb, flanger, and some controlling the LFO for flanger. Likewise for phaser. Redux, a couple basic things. You want hard, soft, and pitch. This is a plugin I got called Pitch Drop. Basically, these controls let you specify a number of beats, or in this case, a number of bars, 2 bars, 1 bar, or quarter note. And this is how long it takes to get that vinyl slow down stop effect, if I wanted to do sort of a sudden transition using that. So just a little toy to play with within here. And now on the bottom we have more of the rhythm-based effects. We have a delay, feedback, delay left and right, so you can have the different rhythms. This is just the simple delay plugin in Ableton. Then ping pong works similarly, has its own little filter. Beat repeat. Beat repeat, this is an interesting interface because it's different from the knob-based interface that's presented. I find this a lot more intuitive and easy to use. Generally you specify the interval, the duration of the space you're looking at, and then within that you pick the number of divisions. This replaces the grid knob it's relative to interval. So it's easy to say I want, I want 1 bar and I want 4 divisions. So this is going to be quarter notes. And we have a gate, so you can cut it off at some portion during this interval, and offset. You can offset it by portions of a bar, similar to the knobs. Anyways, I left room for a slicer and looper. Haven't plugged that in yet, but those are all the effects. The only other things to see here are these buttons. This one's really neat. It's flashing red, and that's because I've applied some effect somewhere. I forget where I hit some buttons, but if I see that red, it means that I'm not neutral. And so if I'm bringing in a new track, I want to make sure that that is not red. And I can do that by just boop, pushing it. That'll reset all of the levels, not all the fine-tuned settings, but all the dry, wet, or the amount knobs, so that I'm at a neutral setting for this track. This is the cue. It disables, it actually turns off the music. It can only happen if it's stopped, so this won't break things, but this basically lets me turn to headphones, and now I can preview the coming up track, check out my transition and all that, and it's red, bright red, letting me know that music will not play if to the house if I hit one of these cue points. This one's similar, but instead what it's doing is it's changing these controls so that instead of targeting the track itself, it's targeting the preview that's actually in the library. So I can preview later in the track without affecting the playback. So that lets me sort of anticipate and maybe even practice and really get a feel for the transition that I'm going to do if I've got a little time and I want to figure it out before I get there. So that's a nice little feature, and of course it's bright red because it's disabled the primary controls for this track since I'm in preview mode. That is everything on this deck, and as I said, there's one for each deck. Right now I only rock with 2 decks because I'm a beginner DJ, and I'm planning to get probably 4 decks total once I get more comfortable with the system. But in the meantime, I've got plenty to play with. I hope this has been informative, inspirational, and if you have any questions, like I said, post it in the comments. If you're interested in this, please message me at toy@daveburzak.com. I don't have short-term plans to put this on the market or anything. It's while it's very stable, it's still effectively a prototype and not ready to be put out to market. But if there's a lot of interest, then I definitely would like to consider working with a publisher to get at least parts of this in the hands of other DJs, because I think it does some really unique stuff and certainly lets DJs mess with Ableton in the DJ space in a way that they haven't typically been able to. So, hope you enjoyed this little walkthrough, and check out, I have another video that I'm going to post of a demo where I actually use this thing, and you can kind of get a sense of how it feels to toy around with it. Thank you.